WCBI News at 6 starts now.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. It could be December before shipping on the Tennessee-Tombigbee waterway returns to normal. The update coming today during a briefing at the Aberdeen Lock and Dam. U.S. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith got the update from the Corps of Engineers. An emergency channel should be complete by the second week in May. There are 20 areas of shoaling along the river from Tishomingo County to Demopolis, Alabama. Products are not being shipped out or into Monroe County businesses, costing thousands upon thousands of dollars. Senator Hyde-Smith says it's important for her to see this work firsthand and for Congress to act.
It is communication. You know, we immediately got some emergency funds here. Of course, we got the dredging going on 24/7 right now. They're telling us 2 to 3 weeks. So, you know, it's just making sure that they have all the financial tools that they have to get the contracts in place to get people here as quickly as possible to start the process.
To completely dredge all of the sandbars along the Tenn-Tom, it will cost about $14 million. More than $8 million has already been approved. Well, there's not much left of what people on the north side of Columbus called Moss Tie and then later Kerr-McGee. Along 14th Avenue, the creosote plant is long gone, but the damage from the contamination is taking years to fix. The chemical used at the plant to weatherproof railroad ties and telephone poles soaked into the ground here. It was in the air and the ground water. And some of the people who live nearby say their yards are still oily on rainy days. 4 years ago, Kerr-McGee and attorneys for the people in the neighborhood reached a $5 billion deal. The money was set aside for families for chronic illnesses, rare cancers, and mounting medical bills. Most of them say they haven't seen any of the money. The area is now an EPA Superfund site and is being cleaned up now in phases. Well, that cleanup continues at the Kerr-McGee site and the surrounding neighborhood, but many of the people in that neighborhood still have some concerns. Our Jory Talley joins us live from the site with more. Jory?
The EPA started working with Kerr-McGee doing cleanup work while the company was still operating back in the late 90s. Then during the company's bankruptcy, the cleanup work stopped and nothing was being done. Then in 2011, the cleanup work started back again when Multi-State Trust came to town, and they've been here working ever since. And even though they say they're making good progress, the finish line is being measured in years, not weeks or months.
Walked many days in the rain breathing creosote and inhaling it. I have a serious sinus problem right now because of exposure to creosote, but at the time, I didn't know.
Reverend James E. Samuel was born and raised in Columbus. He went to Hunt High School not far from the Kerr-McGee site. He's one of the many who was being impacted by the site's unknown poison at the time and still sees its impacts today, decades later. That's why he's serving as a voice for his community during the cleanup process.
I'm here trying to help them put together a package that will satisfy the community, help them achieve their mission goals, amen, and help change or turn around the negative side of what Kerr-McGee left behind.
Laurie Gorton is the Director of Environmental Programs for the Multi-State Trust. She's responsible for the work that's being done here at the Kerr-McGee site. The company's purpose is to clean up the site and to make sure impacted areas are safe and healthy and make the area suitable for future use.
Over 600 samples in the 2016-2017 timeframe. Over 200 of them out in the neighborhood to make sure that the residents were not being exposed to anything. And then just recently we followed up in a couple of areas here.
So far, 8 residential properties have been identified that had contamination above the cleanup level. There's also still some creosote contamination in the storm drainage ditches, not including 2 of those that have been cleaned.
14th Avenue and 7th Avenue, there's one section of ditch that we need to complete. And then we did find a little bit of surface soil contamination in some properties on the east side of the site along the ditch and a few on the west side across the street from the property. And we've sent letters out to those residents letting them know that their yards are eligible for a cleanup.
Gorton says the overall cleanup process will take several years.
The Pine Yard is a good example. It will take probably, by the time we're done, we'll have taken 7 or 8 months, partially because it's rained so much. So a lot of the work that we do is weather dependent. But we're now identifying the kinds of cleanup that we're going to do on all the other parts of the property. And that process will take a couple years to get approved and designed and built.
The little part we're trying to do now will redevelop this land into something that's prosperous or profitable for all the people that still live over here. And we're not talking about a paycheck. We're talking about trying to bring some facilities in that will serve the community.
Gorton says she wants residents to know that their opinions matter to them, and the group wants to know what residents' interests are and what their thoughts will be when the cleanup work is finally done. The EPA and DEQ also play a big role in the cleanup and have to approve plans throughout the process. Reporting live here in front of the Kerr-McGee site, Jory Talley, WCBI News.
Just in late this afternoon, 7 Mississippi counties have been declared disaster areas by President Trump. That declaration comes after storms produced tornadoes and flooding that impacted thousands from February 22nd through February 24th. The counties listed include Calhoun, Chickasaw, Clay, Grenada, Lowndes, Pontotoc, and Tishomingo. The counties are eligible for public assistance, which will reimburse local governments and nonprofits for part of the cost to repair damages and to pick up debris. Assistance for individuals is still under review. MEMA Executive Director Greg Michel says they have asked MEMA to add 13 other counties from recent storms. Time now for us to get a first look at our forecast. Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson standing by for that. Hey, Keith.
We need a break from all that storminess, Andre, and today we got another dry day. Live view in Starkville with the MDOT camera there, no problems whatsoever. Some high overcast, yes, we are in the 70s right now. It will be a pretty nice evening to be out and about at the ball fields or taking a walk down the street. We have the bigger storms down to the southwest over here into Texas. And you can see the clouds coming on in. Right now that moisture you see is staying aloft in the clouds. So 70s and some 60s here this evening. The wind is light, not too bad. Lows down into the 50s tonight. We are looking at low 80s tomorrow. Passing clouds, still a pretty nice day. Your full forecast in just a few minutes.
A teenager will spend the next 30 years in prison for armed robbery and manslaughter. Thomas Bradford was sentenced today for a 2016 armed robbery and murder case. Bradford pleaded guilty to armed robbery and the lesser charge of manslaughter for his role in the March 2016 incident that left one man dead. Bradford is also facing charges in connection with an August 2017 shooting death of Deontay Rogers, this at the Brooksville Garden Apartments. At the time of the shooting, the then 16-year-old Bradford was out on bond for those 2016 charges. Bradford was also sentenced to pay all court costs. A Knoxville County man will spend a decade in prison. Jericho Dooley pleaded guilty after being charged with beating and paralyzing another man. Dooley was one of 3 people charged in the crime. Documents accused Dooley, Jamie Welch, and Douglas King Jr. of stomping and beating Charles Womack. Dooley was also given 5 years probation once he is released from prison. A traffic stop leads to a drug arrest in Chickasaw County. Deputies and agents with North Mississippi Narcotics stopped Bobby Pennington on County Road 92 last week for a tent violation on his vehicle. During the stop, they found 9 grams of methamphetamine. Pennington was arrested and charged with possession of a controlled substance. West Point police officers are getting some extra training. The department held a mock drill today to give officers a refresher on policies and procedures in different situations. The training included a mix of veteran and rookie officers. They divided into groups and simulated a variety of scenarios. They reviewed protocol for accidents, traffic stops, even active shooters. Assistant Police Chief Kennedy Metters says the mock drills will help these officers communicate more effectively.
Trying to get the younger officers and on the older officers on the same sheet of music just to make sure that they're doing the same thing and let the younger officers know that, hey, these guys got experience, you need to listen to them, but also let the older officers know that, hey, these guys are ready to do what they need to do, and we want you to teach them the right way.
Metters says he plans to continue to use these drills in the future. Stress, anger, or anxiety. Sooner or later, many people experience one or more of these challenges on the job. Our Stephanie Poole is in the studio with why sometimes it's harder to cope.
No matter how much you love being a teacher or a social worker or even a lineman, some days are just too much. And for many of our first responders, the stress can really add up. For paramedics and law officers, nurses and firefighters, there's no such thing as a 9-to-5 job. And while the work differs, the workers seem to have one thing in common: job fatigue. Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott works 8 to 12 hours per day.
Have court proceedings that officers have to get up and get back to courts, arraignments. So, you know, they very easily can get to a point to where it's a lot of physical stress. This wears on the body, it affects their performance. And on top of that, as sheriffs and chiefs, we have to watch for the mental side of it too.
His department makes sure that deputies have services available to them. This includes counselors, ministers, and medical services. Sheriff Scott says the long hours, long nights, and even paperwork can take a toll.
We've all been there. You know, I've had the burnout sensations and just got to find ways to cope with it, to deal with it, whether it's talking to somebody or just taking a quick break, go fishing for a couple of hours. It just kind of, you know, relieves your mind. The stress level is very high on these jobs.
In Oktibbeha County, EMS Director and Coroner Michael Hunt says even on his off days, he's still on the clock.
Typically, I mean, I don't have a Monday through Friday job. I mean, it's every day at all hours of the night. It just depends on what our workload is here. We deal with life and death 24 hours a day, so it's very mentally challenging. You know, how we deal with that. There's several ways.
Hunt says he is always on call as a coroner and at the hospital. It's a balancing act. Since Hunt knows the challenges of the medical field, he gives his staff members a day off when the pressures of the job are apparent. If you work long shifts at your job, let us know. You can join the conversation on our Facebook page and let us know what you do to relieve job fatigue.
For me, it's M&M's, peanut M&M's. All right, coming up, a Columbus school is cashing in on a special grant. We'll tell you where the money is going when we come back. Welcome back. A Columbus school is soon going a little more high-tech thanks to some help from the Tennessee Valley Authority. Fairview Elementary got a $5,000 grant to improve science, technology, engineering, and math offerings at the school. The grant is part of a partnership with Tennessee Valley Authority and Bicentennial Volunteers Incorporated. The money will help pay for technology that will give these students more of a hands-on approach in STEM-related subjects.
Our students are going to get some innovative computer tablets that they can actually manipulate themselves and that will allow them to add devices to the tablet and learn coding and those kind of skills that we think are important for 21st century learning.
The program awarded nearly $600,000 in grants to 161 schools. Students at Northeast Mississippi Community College and some of their neighbors get a chance to meet with prospective employers at an annual spring job fair. More than 350 people attended the annual NEMCC job fair. 75 companies had representatives at the Boonville campus today. Professions included law enforcement, transportation, the military, and other services, all there today.
We're at Kroger in Starkville Thursday evening or afternoon, 4:30 to 6:30, programming weather radios. Now, Thursday, there will be a chance for some storms around here. It looks like the better odds for some strong to severe storms along and south of I-20 into southern Mississippi. More on that, plus a look ahead at the weekend after the break.
Your WCBI First Alert AccuWeather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
Here's a live view with our Alpha Insurance Camera Network in Columbus, Louisville, Mississippi, Vernon, at Durham's Pharmacy, and in Tupelo. We have some high overcast. We are dry. No major concerns right now. Temperatures are mild. We are in the 70s here, and a good chunk of the lower 48 warming up now as we get into late April. Now let's jump ahead and check out the early temperature outlook for the first week of May. Down here where we live, it looks like warmer than average temperatures, and starting next week, mid-80s are back in the forecast with that cooler weather retreating back to the north. And we want to see this drier conditions to hold as we get into early May. It's been pretty wet. We are about 10 plus inches above average, so we can use a couple of days, couple of weeks here without any significant rainfall. Now we have some higher clouds coming on in, moisture in those clouds not reaching the ground, but we do have some showers and storms back to the west in Texas and Oklahoma, so we will have a chance for some rain later this week, probably Thursday. This is Fair Elementary School in Louisville, Mississippi today. Meteorologist Jacob Dickey down there talking about supercell storms, tornadoes, hail, wind, all that stuff that comes with severe weather, clouds, and the tornado dance was back in action earlier today, too. So thanks for having us down there to Louisville. I was there last week, Jacob down there today. Let's talk about the 18th of April tornado outbreak. 32 now confirmed so far. Just got an update here after the 5 o'clock show. So 32 alone on the 18th. So that makes 51 since April 13th. The yearly average is 30. Just a crazy amount of tornadoes here. And the 18th event now 32, the third biggest tornado outbreak in the state's history. Survey is still ongoing. We may add a few here as we go throughout the next 24 to 48 hours, so stay tuned for that. Tonight, scattered high clouds down into the 50s. Tomorrow, 50s and some 70s, then some 80s. It's looking pretty nice. Winds from the southwest here for our Wednesday. So let's look ahead. We will have more clouds coming on in, but the moisture stays back to our west on Wednesday. It looks like on Thursday, the higher odds for some of those stronger storms will stay along and south of I-20. Some of that could sneak back in here, though. So we will just broad brush a chance for some scattered storms during the day Thursday, maybe Thursday night, too. Then that system gets out of here, and we'll have a pretty nice weekend. Temperatures a little bit cooler Thursday, Friday. We're in the 70s, but around 80 for your weekend. Mid-80s by Tuesday.
The Bulldogs and the Rebels meeting for the first time on the diamond with bragging rights on the line. All things Governor's Cup next in sports.
WCBI First Alert Weather School is brought to you by Emerson Animal Hospital in West Point. WCBI Sports with Tom Ebel is brought to you by your local Ford dealers. Go further.
The first meeting between the Bulldogs and the Rebels going down in Pearl tonight. The bragging rights for the Governor's Cup up for grabs. Both teams in desperate need of a big midweek win. The Bulldogs coming off a sweep against top 10 Arkansas, in which they were on the other end of the broomstick. Peyton Plumlee taking the hill tonight against the Rebels. And as for Ole Miss, Rebels coming off a series loss at Auburn, losing 2 out of 3. So it all goes down right now at Trustmark Park. First pitch was at 6 p.m. It is not on television, so make sure you tune into WCBI Sports tonight at 10, as we'll have highlights and recap from everything going on down in Pearl. But taking a quick look at the series, Bulldogs have won 3 straight in the rivalry special, including 8 of its last 10 against Ole Miss. Jake Mangum is the Rebel Nightmare, batting .431 lifetime against the Ole Miss Rebels, including 14 runs scored. His match on the other side, Greg Kessinger may be the only one more scorching than Jake. The junior's batting .453 in conference play. That's tops in the SEC, while recording a hit in 20 of his last 25 league games and has reached safely in 29 straight. A new update in the Rebel Rags lawsuit. The Mississippi Supreme Court has denied the appeals of former Mississippi State head football coach Dan Mullen, former athletic director Scott Strickland, and also the NCAA and Mike Sheridan. The appeals were denied on April 17th. The 3 parties may have to testify. The lawsuit began back in June 2017. ICC Southpaw Houston Harding named MACJC Pitcher of the Week. The sophomore was stellar this past week, going 2-0 and going the distance in each outing, striking out 19 in 16 innings of work. ICC remains number 4 in the national poll with a 36-6-1 record, traveling to Coahoma on Wednesday for a Saturday series at home against Hines. Heritage Academy softball's Macy Nordquist will continue her athletic career right down the road, signing with the MUW Owls. Nordquist has almost done it all for the Lady Pats, primarily playing shortstop as well as pitching over the past 2 years. The senior says continuing her softball career is just a bonus in her pursuing her goal of becoming a nurse.
Staying close to home and being able to stay at home and still go to a good school with a good softball program and do what I want is in nursing. and it's just easier to travel back and forth and get to play.
Speaking of softball, some playoff softball tonight. Game 3s as in games 1 all around the area for the high school level. We'll have highlights from Caledonia, Choctaw County, East Webster, and possibly Manatee, but all sorts of great stuff, as well as playoff baseball. Caledonia's baseball series against Corinth coming down to the wire. We'll have highlights of that coming up at 10 right here on WCBI Sports. But that's it for sports. We'll have the last of your forecast coming up right after the break.
Not too bad tomorrow, low 80s, some rain and storms around the region Thursday. Some of those stronger storms may stay to our south this time, so we'll watch that Thursday. Friday, we'll clear it out. Your weekend's looking pretty good. Next week, we start to warm things up again, and we don't have a 90 on there yet, but Andre, you know we're getting close to that at some point.
Look at that last one on there, 85.
Getting there, halfway.
All right, that is the news at 6 o'clock. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening, everybody.